Okay, I guess we're going to start talking now. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's 6 years later, Leftovers Chat. I'm Ethan. I'm a middle-aged guy from America who has seen my favorite show, The Leftovers, a whole lot. I have Benji, who is about 20 years younger than me, over in England, and he's watching it with me for the first time. Say hi, Benji.
Hey, you know what I was just thinking?
Yeah.
We should come back in 6 years and do the podcast again, and then it can be 6 years later, 6 years later, Leftovers podcast.
No, 12 years later, 6 years later, Leftovers Chat. Maybe we'll do that. Oh, God, Leftovers.
Well,
Death, that's all I think about.
I was going to say. And then one of us can sit and talk about loss for a few hours.
It's what Patty said. What else is there left to think about, right? Right.
We'll see what happens in 6 years.
All right, so we're in season 2, episode 3. It's called Off Ramp. Part of me makes me wish I had not told you the title until now, but
it's good. I kind of forgot anyway.
Right. So what we have here was what we open with. We have the first cold open of the second season of The Leftovers. It doesn't go right into the song. We open with a jazz drum solo and Laurie Garvey at a car wash in the middle of the night. And at a GR compound, Tommy is starting the extraction process for one of the members. Then more intercut actions with Laurie typing furiously on a laptop, purchasing a lot of nicotine gum, and setting up a meeting area for ex-GR members. Tommy brings the new member to the group, and we see Tommy and Laurie are holding GR anonymous type meetings, and the new member is named Susan. And we get the credits. Now, we're 3 episodes into the second season. How are the credits? How are you doing with the new credit song?
I'm liking it. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it more. It was. I was wondering though when I was listening to it, is this an original? Did they create this just for the show? Right? It's not like they used it from somewhere else.
No. This is a song called "Let the Mystery Be." It's by an artist named Iris Dement, or Demet, and no, it's been a song for a while.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and it's been around for so long that a long time ago, when MTV was doing Unplugged, 10,000 Maniacs did Unplugged, and with a very popular version of Because the Night by Patti Smith. That one of the outtakes is David Byrne from the Talking Heads coming up with her and singing this song, Let the Mystery Be.
So and that was it was Iris Dement?
Yeah, Dement. And that
Iris Dement.
Yeah.
Sorry, Iris.
Yeah.
But it's a good song. And it does change, because I was going to say, if it was wrote specifically for the show, it feels a little bit like on the nose, some of the references and the lines, and it's
a bit tailor-made for the show, right?
But then when I realize it's not, and they've sort of done it in the reverse, where they've had an existing song and fit it to the show rather than have an existing show and fit a song to it, that's impressive. Especially because it's not just about the lyrics, it's about getting the song. Obviously there's a lot more that goes into a song than just the lyrics, the tone, and I'm not a music expert, but the melody lines and all that stuff, and it's all fitting quite well so far, in a weird kind of way, even though it doesn't feel like it should, it does.
Well, it's changing the tenor of, the season, right? We're in, the second season, I think they were trying to change up the show a little bit. Because it was not a high rating show by any stretch of the imagination when it was on.
I do think as well, the song's called Let the Mystery Be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when I was like hearing it, it reminded me of what you were saying way back in like episode 1 or 2 about how Damien said, before the show even started, that there was going to be this big mystery event, a departure, and they weren't going to tell you, like we shouldn't be expecting to find out how that happened and have that explained for us. So when I was listening to the lyrics being on Let the Mystery Be, I was like, maybe that's just Damien speaking straight to me, the guy watching the show, saying, just let that be and just enjoy the show. But that was back when I was under the impression it was an original song, so maybe it doesn't hold quite as much weight now.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think there's lots of times in the show where the writing is speaking to the audience. Patty last week said it's hard to tell if I like the Murphys. It's hard to tell if you're a part of their story or they're a part of your story.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of that going on. There's more going on in this episode, and there'll be more going on of that in the future.
Mhm.
So it is a happier theme song for kind of what seems to be sometimes a more uplifting season, I guess. Not really yet, especially when we hit off ramp here. This kind of feels like a first season leftovers a little bit to me, right? I think.
Do you think?
Well, when we get to the end with Susan, I think it is a little. But let's get started. Right after the credits, Laurie is showing Susan around the office space they are using to house people while they try to get them reintegrated back into society. We find out that Susan is married with a child and fear they won't take her back. Laurie promises to help her come back. Tommy spends his time being drunk and watching YouTube videos of Holy Wayne giving people hugs. Laurie and Tommy discuss the GR house to go to next, and Laurie is worried about her son's well-being. Tommy argues the only way to build trust to those who want to get out is to go undercover. Laurie explains to Susan that she is working on a book about her experience with the guilty remnant. So it's kind of weird that Laurie is showing well-being for her child.
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much everything that Laurie's doing right now is kind of weird compared to what we've seen.
Yeah, we've seen her washing her car. That'll come later. We talk about that. Now we see Laurie's landlord, Victor, who is an awesome guy. He shakes her down for an extra $200 on rent because he knows people are sleeping there and the building is zoned for commercial use only. He also shakes her down for a bagel.
Wait, so does Laurie, because that's obviously a commercial building, but he's also the landlord for the apartment where she stays, right?
No, I don't think so.
But later in the episode, when I don't want to get too far ahead, but when they take some of her stuff, that came from her apartment, right? And he was
No. I think she's in a separate place with Tommy, staying somewhere, and she has this other place as the commercial space where she houses the people that have left the guilty remnant. That's what I got from it. I think
right.
the place where Tommy's getting drunk and watching you.
Oh, okay. The reason it confused me was that she was working on a book in the apartment. So then the fact that the landlord takes the laptop suggests that he sort of owned the apartment as well. But it can't be that. Maybe she just left the laptop in the commercial building.
Well, we'll get to that. But I think she was there working on it all the time. So whether it's home or office or whatever. In the group meeting, we get more insight to each individual's pain. Some GRs threateningly come into the meeting. I'm now going to start calling them the GR Bros. They're a new hulky, threatening level of the GR. The kind that are big and thick enough to get rid of Tommy Garvey. You know what I mean? Laurie is back washing her car while Tommy checks into a new GR house. The music that plays is a piano version of Where Is My Mind? Laurie continues to write her book while catching reflective glimpses of other families. Susan is reintroduced to her husband and son. This is a happy reunion for her family. At the group, she talks about the visit and how she didn't think her family would want her back. She believes her husband is still angry but isn't showing it just so she will stay at home. Susan directly points out that Laurie is also angry. Laurie denies this and then gets cut off by Tommy bringing in another new recruit from the guilty remnant. At this point, it's hard to escape how beaten down Tommy's looking. While Laurie continues to work on her book, we hear news of a man in Australia who claimed to have risen from the dead. The man is identified as David Burton. Laurie asks Tommy to drive to a meeting with Jill. She writes a note. She promises not to be seen by Jill, which we know doesn't happen. While waiting for Tommy to get back, Laurie scratches some kind of spot off her windshield. Tommy doesn't mention that Jill tore up the letter. So that's a big section I picked out.
Yeah. It's,
A lot
there's a lot.
a lot happened.
I still didn't even got around to talking about how I'd felt about some of the stuff caught up and like when we saw Tommy for the first time in the GR outfit. I mean, that was a pretty it wasn't so much a big like reveal, but it kind of fakes you out because you'd think it might be, but then it's revealed he's not actually. He's just there undercover, but it's still a cool moment where you see him in that white shirt, and I gotta say he does suit that kind of costume, suit that dress code.
He kind of looks like he belongs, right?
He does. He does look like he belongs, which is kind of worrying. But yeah, well, I mean, what I mainly wanted to speak about was Laurie, right? Because when I was watching this, I was having a really big, I was having a lot of trouble trying to understand what is going on with Laurie. Given that we left off in the season 1 finale where she was like as GR as you could go. She was the one who led them when Pi was gone. She was the one who kind of orchestrated that big event in the finale, and she was like putting all of her effort into just running the GR, and she was like completely committed to it. And and then now the first time we see her past that, she suddenly seems like it's like a complete 180 of her character. And I just didn't understand how she was so different. But more than her being different, I was going to say healed. I don't know if she's healed per se, but she seems more together than season 1. But it just, I don't know. The problem wasn't that she was healed. It was that we didn't, or somewhat healed. The problem was that we didn't get to see it. So it felt like we saw her kind of hit rock bottom in season 1, and now we have this time skip, and she's doing just fine. So we sort of miss that evolution that comes between. So I don't know. It kind of feels like we were robbed of seeing that. I was quite looking forward to seeing that. So I was pretty confused by how she was so different and seemed to have shaken off all this GR stuff and gone the complete opposite direction. And not only that she'd done that, but she'd done that without us witnessing that. So it just kind of, yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense to me while I was watching.
But I mean, like by the end, did you kind of realize that that's kind of what we're watching now? Like we saw a bottoming out of her at the end of the first season, and this episode is a is a is a lower depth almost. I mean, I think
Lower than season 1.
lower than season 1. You
Well,
know,
I'm not sure though, because at the very least, I don't get how she's suddenly flipped the script on its head in regard to the way she views the GR. Like she was embedded deep into that like society, and now she is the one leading the fight against them, and it's just gone from one extreme to the other, and we didn't get to see how that happened.
yeah, and I guess since I railroaded over the first like half hour of the episode, we'll just keep this one a little nonlinear. Um, um, she definitely, at the end of the episode, we find out, and we got to get to the publisher stuff because that's when this happens. But she has this attitude where it's like she's never going to talk to her daughter again. She thinks that she has screwed that up forever. And she has this pain. She still has this pain. And she still doesn't know where to put it. And I guess she puts it, the only place she knows how is on the GR. By, doing this this pretty fruitless one woman crusade to save people one at a time by sending her son in undercover, putting him in danger and to get them out. So I don't think there was any quote unquote her being better at the end of season 1. So I think we're kind of seeing this evolution because this happened fairly quickly. Like, what are we, like 2 months later? I assume we're 2 months later.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Well, and we're in that time period where Jill and Tommy see each other at the restaurant from last episode. Right?
Yeah.
And we're sometimes after the news of David Barton because we hear that news come over, but we also know that Michael wrote him a letter, or the guy in the tower wrote him a letter for Michael to mail.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of timeline stuff going on. And I don't know if that makes any more sense for what you were saying.
Yeah, kind of. I just admit, I don't want to dwell on this too long. I'm still confused as how, like, she was able.
And now,
GR is like a full-on cult.
yes,
2 months, she's managed to fully extract herself from being like at the top of it to completely outside of it, like fighting against it and helping other people break out as well. Like, how does she? And she's writing a book about it, like the produce control people. If she, like, either she figured all that out in 2 months, or she already knew it. But if she already knew it, then why was she letting it work on her? You know what I mean? Like, if she knew they were manipulating her and whatever, then well, it seems she didn't because she was right in there doing that stuff in season 1.
well, I think her chapter of the GR has been decimated by the town. So she's on to other chapters of the GR.
Well, kind of, except when we do see Meg later in the episode, who looks like she's doing okay.
Well, we'll get to that. Trust me. Is there anything else I spoke over that you wanted to talk about?
Maybe, I don't know. There was that video of Hawley Wayne in the beginning, which makes a lot more sense once we get to the end of the episode. But I did notice that. So she was watching this on YouTube, right? And we've spoken previously about Apple and iOS.
Here we go. Let the mystery be.
I don't know whether to. I was just confused because it must.
They definitely had YouTube. I don't know what you're confused about.
I know they had YouTube, but I don't know if, like, maybe YouTube has just evolved way faster than I remember. So, because obviously the user interface of YouTube today is a lot different to what we saw in that video. The show was only, what, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Season 2 must be like 2015, right? So, I don't know. Maybe in 2015 that was what the YouTube interface looked like. That's just a surprise to me because it looks so much different now. But they make a lot of changes. They're making pretty fast. That's possible. And I guess that's the case because it's not like they.
Maybe that's next.
No, not really. Apart from no,
Okay.
not so much. I mean, he is that kind of. I don't want to say cliche, but it is a slight cliche of that passive aggressive landlord who's like friendly, threatening.
Yeah, and some of this is like a Laurie episode where like we're giving her lots of obstacles to get to her goal. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost some of the episode I feel like is a little inorganic to where we are this season anyway. But like we have to get Laurie to a place. We don't know where that place is yet. We have to get Laurie and Tommy to a place emotionally for their story to move forward. It's not like they're Amy or the twins and they can just say, okay, I'm going to leave now. Do you know what I mean? And, they're interesting characters.
Yeah. And, I mean, to be fair, an extra $200 a month, that's a pretty hefty increase to just drop on somebody out of nowhere.
Well, it's illegal. He's shaking her down. It's all extra money. He's just being a scuzzy dude to take advantage of her. That's all he's doing. Also, he's a bagel thief, which is kind of a special level.
That's where Kevin's bagel went in episode 2.
Kevin found his bagel. Rewatching this episode of The Leftovers, I can say for sure, Kevin went into the middle of the night and took apart the bagel toaster. after he asked the mayor if she took his bagel. Okay. Right.
Well, I didn't actually think he stole it.
Um. Anything
But,
about the anything about the GR Bros coming in and trying to give Susan a note?
kind of about the GR Bros, more about Tommy. Was when I was watching this and watching Tommy do his little like infiltration job, kind of like, hey, you know what I just realized? I was just gonna reference a film where somebody infiltrates this organization and is like trying to, I don't know, infiltrate them uh, from the bottom up, whatever. And that film is called The Departed.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I was going to say Tommy going in and doing his job because, like I said before, he kind of looks natural in that outfit. That looks like he belongs there. So I was starting to get worried, like, what happens? This is dangerous territory. Like, he could get accidentally converted to the GR in the process of trying to do the opposite. Because we've already seen he's like he's open to that kind of stuff. He was in Holy Wayne's little like cult gang, so it's definitely a risk. It's a danger, and he's probably not the best person to be putting in that situation, given that his state that he's in. It's treading on thin ice, I think.
Well, yeah, and I guess one of the big themes of this show is, Laurie has traded putting one of her children in danger for putting another one of her children in danger.
Yeah, and about that, like, I get that Laurie is really upset over this and the fact that Jill won't speak to her and she thinks she's like, alienates her and they're never going to be able to reconcile. But when I was watching the finale, as long as I remember the order of events correctly, Jill comes in after Laurie knows that Jill has come in. Meg asks, "Do we carry on tonight? Do we do it?" Laurie says yes, knowing full well that Jill would be there. And then obviously the events happen, and afterwards she's all remorseful and full of regret. But she knew it was going to happen. It's not like she said yes, it should happen, and then after that Jill came in. It's the other way around. Like Jill came in, and then she said, even though she knew that, she said, "Yeah, let's do it."
Okay, so I think there's confusion here. The GR did not set their house on fire.
No, they didn't. But from their reaction to it, it wasn't like they couldn't have been. It's not like they were thinking, "Oh, we'll go do this thing, and we'll hope everyone just stays in their house and does nothing." Like they knew stuff was going to happen. They knew they couldn't just do this and get away with it.
True. Yeah, I mean, I got nothing on that. I agree with you.
Yeah, it just seems a little bit like weird for Laurie to be so like wishing she hadn't done that when she had that chance.
Well, she's just full of regret and pain, and yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's one of those things where she thought she was, it's one of those like occasions where what's most important to you, you only realize it in the moment itself. And before that, she may well have thought that the stuff she was doing at the GR was what meant the most to her, and that's why she went ahead of it. But then
Well, that's what.
when it came to the actual realization of that, she realized that's not her, and that's not what's most important to her.
And I think she's still confused about that now. It's like Joni Mitchell says, "Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone." You know. Anything about Susan being introduced to her husband and son? Ooh! Before we do that, we see Laurie washing cars again. And then we get the piano version of "Where Is My Mind." Did you place that?
Yeah, I did. This is the second time this has happened. When it first came in, it took me a second to place it. When it first came in, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Is this like some new theme song leitmotif for Laurie?" And then I realized later it was "Where's My Mind." But that same thing happened in I think it was the finale when there was that "Nothing Else Matters" cover. So
Right.
both times have been like
But this is a little different because, we heard the regular original Pixies version with Kevin, and now we hear the,
Yeah, that is a pretty big deal.
yeah, it's almost like a theme. The Garveys might be going crazy. So let's slow down a little bit. Susan is reintroduced to her son, husband and son, and they seem pretty happy about it.
And it's a lovely scene to watch until you finish it.
Yeah, it's nice to watch until you realize something's wrong there.
But it's a really cool shot. Of the way that was filmed with like this big wide shot, and you get all three players in frame with Susan walking towards the house, the kid running over, and the dad kind of reacting by the doorstep, and it's all elements of that one position. It's just one long shot, I think.
Yeah, and when she's talking about it in the group, she says that there's this underlying anger her husband has, and then she points out, she's very pointedly says to Laurie, like, you're angry too. And Laurie straight up denies that she's angry. And by the end of the episode, we know for a fact that Susan's right. Laurie is angry, and it goes to what we were talking about earlier. She's hitting some new low.
It's interesting. It's not the way I saw it when I watched it the first time, but I guess it's not. The fact is, when we watch the finale, it's pretty evident from her appearance that it's a pretty low point. She's all kind of like covered in smoke and ash and ripped up clothes and kind of just a mess. So it's easy for us to identify that with her inward state of being at a very low point. Whereas here, because she looks more together and she's talking like she's more together and she seems like there's purpose to her, I guess I mistakenly assumed to begin with that she was okay to an extent, and that was why I was a little disappointed for it to skip to that point, because I assumed the job of the show was that we got to watch that. But the longer this episode goes on, the more I talk about it, the more it becomes evident that it's the same inward state. She's just packaged it up and given it a nice new dress that she's planning to return later.
Totally, and she pulled the what's your return policy, right? But all right, that's good. Yeah, it's the leftovers. We're not watching people get better. But I have a lot to say about that at the end. I'm gonna go on. Is that okay?
Yep.
Susan is waiting with the news that Victor has kicked them out of the office building. Laurie realizes that he has stolen her laptop. So this is after her meeting with Tommy and Jill, where she saw something on the windshield and wiped it off. She needs her laptop back. She begs for it back, but he refuses, saying he doesn't have it, saying that if he admits he has it or says he'll give it back, that's admitting he has it. So that night, to frenetic drums, Laurie breaks into Victor's house with his family home, steals her laptop back from his son while he is using it. The frantic drumming from the beginning starts up again during this sequence. In some weird celebratory move, Laurie sees two members of In some weird celebratory mood, Laurie sees two members of the GR, takes aim, revs the engine, and mows them down. Again, she's back at the car wash. And then we see her mailing in her manuscript and buying more gum, but less this time. So this was a crazy scene with her breaking into someone's house. I didn't really know where it was going to go. It seemed, while it was interesting to watch, it does seem like a lot of filler for the episode to me. You do get her state of mind with the drums somewhat. And what's really interesting is you see her kind of in a fist pumping kind of move, run over the GR and go to the car wash. But before this, we've seen her at the car wash 2 or 3 times. So it begs the question, and I think the answer is yes after watching this episode again. Is she just mowing down GR all the time?
Well, I honestly didn't spot a lot of those windshield stuff the first time around watching, uh, because I didn't know what I was looking for there. But from like looking back on it, I would say absolutely. Yeah. I'm not
And
sure
it's
what else it would be on the windshield apart from
well,
that doesn't seem quite worthy of mental stuff.
yeah, like she's always at a car wash. She's rubbing off something on her windshield. I mean, that's a line I'm connecting, but it's a line that's there. And if she is, I think it would have been more effective to show her just doing it instead of in this kind of like free falling from Jerry Maguire type scene where she's like all excited about, winning and getting her laptop back.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting though, because I do think the exhilaration in the car does play a role because there's a couple of other key moments that kind of connected me to in my mind, which was in season 1 when Tommy shoots the guy as they're escaping the Wayne's compound, and he does that, and then he gets in the car, and he's exhilarated, but almost in the opposite way. Um, he's kind of like shouting, yelling, not quite in the same way as Laurie, but the fact remains, he's just shot somebody, got in a car, and started like yelling. Um, and then she's mowed people down, and then she's not quite so verbal, but you can see that exhilaration is pretty present. And sorry, I'm sort of reading forward there. She's exhilarated before she mows them down, but there's still parallels. And there's also Matt as well when in episode 3 when Matt kind of clubs that guy to get his money back, and then he gets in the car and he's all like kind of whooping to himself. So it's we have seen that behavior before, and I don't know if I'm connecting the dots or not, like how similar those are meant to be, but it is the third time I think.
Yeah, and I think these are like just, adrenaline rushes here. And this does not jive with her breaking down at the end and saying, I never mean to do it, but they never get out of the way. It does not seem like the same situation. Later on when she admits to Tommy, when she says it after she gets out of jail.
Yeah.
I'm going to go forward now.
Well, the only thing I was going to say about the
Sure.
car was obviously mowing those GR down like that. Kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an asshole move. So it's funny that
Oh yeah.
when she's in the GR, she's like an asshole to everyone else. Whereas when she's part of the everyone else, she's suddenly an asshole to the GR. So it's like she's always got to have an outlet for that. She just kind of seems to be switching where that focus is.
Um well yeah, it's like if you meet a person in the morning and they're an asshole, they're an asshole. If you meet 5 people during the day and they're all assholes, you're the asshole. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard that one before.
Similar stuff.
Yeah. Okay, at Susan's house, Laurie is talking to the family through what it takes to reintegrate someone back into their lives. It is clear that the husband will do anything so Susan just won't leave again. Susan says she won't leave again, and her husband seems to be grateful to Laurie. At the Guilty Remnant house, Tommy chooses the wrong person to try and free. A whistle is blown in his face, and he is kicked out by the new cadre of GR bros. Every chapter of the GR has the GR bros. Now.
The GR bros in Mapleton, though.
Well, they had to get them after Mapleton, right? They saw what happened in Mapleton. They're like, we need some GR bros. So they started going after all the...
The only guy that I can really remember from the Mapleton one is that like old man with the glasses, the white hair.
Right.
Quite the same.
Yeah, but he's not chonky. You know what I mean? These are thick men, these GR bros.
Absolutely.
Tommy is placed in a truck and driven to the middle of nowhere, and out of the blue, Meg 2.0 appears, looking totally not crazy. and she rapes Tommy. The GR bros kick him out of the truck, douse him with gasoline. Meg, using the lighter from Jill to light a cigarette, says, "Tell your mom Meg says hello," and throws the lighter onto Tommy, who does not go up in flames. They leave Tommy half naked on the side of the road. That was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
What do you think of the return of Meg?
I was glad. Glad she was back. I wasn't glad about the scene. I was glad because I had been thinking previously, like, oh, I hope Meg is not just a one-season character, because I enjoyed her presence on screen, like what she brought to it. She's almost becoming the face of the new GR now. We had season one; it was like Meg in the kind of well, the face of it. We still have her, but in a way, it doesn't feel like she looks like a GR, but she's I don't know. She's just like that because that's how Kevin remembers her. To me, it's not like this vision is GR Patty. This is just Patty, but the only way Patty ever dressed was in white, so that's why she's in white. So I don't really see her anymore as the kind of a symbol of the GR. Whereas Meg, I do think of her like that, and so it's useful to have somebody that we can pin kind of the we seem to have this slightly new feel to the GR. You said we've got these like GR bros, and it's a slightly changed organization. So we have somebody who kind of reflects that, and that's Meg. And of course, Meg's the big actor, the big star. So I had a feeling they'd be utilizing her more, but I wasn't sure. So this confirmed that, and for that reason, I was so happy to see she was back.
But her behavior right here, she straight up rapes somebody. And she seems really hell-bent on Laurie for some reason. I was going to ask specifically why Laurie, but I think I figured out that if they caught Tommy doing this, they probably think Laurie is behind it. She had that look where that evil look where she's guarding Frodo from ring wraiths rising the water. You know what I mean? It was it's scary. She's a little scary.
Jeez.
Is that all you have to say about the truck thing? That's pretty cold to leave someone on the side of the road half naked and make them think that you're gonna light them on fire.
Yeah, of course.
Right on.
It's the
Yeah, but that's
surprise.
well, I mean, I'm surprised. Were you shocked by her sexual behavior towards Tommy? I mean, that doesn't seem like GR behavior to me. Seems like Meg
right.
crazy. Meg crazy.
Yeah, well, and she speaks to as well, which is sort of not what GR do.
Right.
She does.
So
she seems to be breaking a few rules, but she's still in control. So I don't know.
Right. People are definitely listening to what she's saying.
Right.
Okay, so Laurie gets a new dress for a meeting with,
I think she's probably given so many instructions, she just doesn't have time to write them all down.
Sure. Laurie gets a new dress for her meeting with the publisher for a book. Tommy has all sorts of questions about Meg. He argues with Laurie that the GR makes sense to people inside, and she responds that once her book is published, it'll help more people.
Yeah. And during this, when he's asking who Meg is, Laurie says it was somebody she knew from when, she says, when I was on the inside. I just wanted to check, when she says this, she's not in any way implying, is she, that she was doing research work and kind of some kind of deep cover during season one? That's not what she meant by when she was on the inside.
No.
Okay, because I was hoping that. I thought it might have been a slight one way you could have heard that, because that is when somebody says, "Oh, when I was on the inside," it's like, I don't know. Well, that's fine then.
It's also how people describe being in prison when they get out. I was on the inside. I don't know from personal experience. Just saying. Susan is up before her husband, and we are shown that she is just going along with everything as if nothing happened. Through breakfast and dinner, life goes on. As we hear the husband go on and on about work, Susan finds the crumpled up note that we didn't see before, and it reads, "Any day now." I don't know what that meant when the bros tried to give her that note, but obviously it's one of her sayings, and it struck
Well,
a chord.
it's what we heard Patty saying to Kevin, right, in Cairo.
Any day now, you're right. And now it seems to be an amorphous saying that could mean tons of things to anybody.
Right.
It's just like, don't waste your breath, or your feelings don't matter, any of those GR sayings.
Right. They give them the sentence and they project themselves onto that because it's such a kind of flexible. It could be interpreted in so many ways. It's like all they have to do is trying to think of the example of it.
As her husband checks his phone and her son plays a game in the car, Susan takes a detour and, as her husband screams, drives down the wrong way of a highway off-ramp. Hence the title, off-ramp.
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter that you told me the title before. That word doesn't really come into play in my vocabulary over here. Maybe we do have off-ramps, I've just never seen them. I don't think we do though.
Well, but you know what it is, right?
I do not. Let me just check. I don't want to sound stupid, but I don't think we have off-ramps.
Oh, it's just on a big highway getting the exit. Also, you guys call things biscuits, and we call them cookies. Same thing, different word. Other things like this include torch and flashlight. Also, did you look it up?
Yeah, I mean, I Googled it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what the big highway situation is in England.
But yeah, we have the motorway, and I don't want to reveal my ignorance of motorway, but we have exits.
Well, it is an exit. It's an off-ramp exit.
Right.
And I know these things. I don't know. I'm speaking completely ignorant about things in England, but for things in America, we have a ton of big cities, and each big city has like a huge highway around it. Around here, it's called the Beltway. I have a couple beltways near me, and there's just off-ramps everywhere. And if you catch an off-ramp going the wrong way, and it's happened here before, very famous stories of this is how people snap sometimes over here. They drive off the off-ramp the wrong way, and that's the end of that. So that's what happened here with Susan and her family, and it's pretty sad. In the publisher's waiting room, an excited Laurie... Huh?
Don't you think, though, her husband took an awful long time to do anything?
What?
Like, I'm sure he could have pulled that wheel back. Like, he was staring for a good 4 or 5 seconds before he did something.
At that point, I think she was already... We're in semantic town, but I think by that point, she's already kind of made her decision to go down that way. And once she's made that turn, there's not much you can do. And that's how they made it seem. If he pulls off right into a car or into a what we call a Jersey wall. So.
Right. Yeah, again, my lack of understanding of American highways let me down. But yeah.
In the publisher's waiting room, an excited Laurie gets the call about Susan, but is quickly called in for her meeting. In the meeting, the room is full of excitement about her book. They call it The Next What Next, the book that was all the rage at the convention and guest. It's all of her current dreams come true. She is assigned an editor, and the plans for some revisions begin. The publisher insists the GR must have a myth like Jesus, David Koresh, and, quote unquote, this wingnut in Australia who went to the other side and can't die.
About this guy from Australia. almost makes me.
He keeps popping up, doesn't he? And it's kind of like, it's almost like, there's no direct relevance to the plot, but we keep hearing things about Australia. Specifically, they wouldn't have shown that envelope going to the guy in Australia unless it meant something. So, and I didn't pick up on it the first time I was watching the episodes either. So the publisher continues. We know what the guilty remnant do, but the publisher continues. We know what the guilty remnant do, but what do they believe? Laurie says in response, she's getting a little heated now. She goes, they believe the world ended. Now, I was going to read this next part, but I decided it was better if I play it because I can't play it. So I got about a minute of audio here. So I'm going to play it. All right.
Okay.
If you want people to connect with it, you have to tell them how it felt.
How what felt?
The realization. When you figured out that these people that you left your family for are fucking whack jobs. Your daughter,
Jill?
Jill, yes. The fire. My God, when I read that, I couldn't believe it, but the fact checker said you were there. And Jill, she was there because these people had you brainwashed, right? Then they got you to let your own daughter into the house so that you would burn together, but then you break free. And when you finally speak for the first time in, a year? You shout Jill's name to your husband, the same guy these people made you divorce. And he goes running in. I mean, she's in there because of you. But you can't save her. He's the one to save her because all you can do is stand there and watch. And I know all of this, Laurie, because you put it in your book. But what I don't know, Laurie, and what I need to know is how you feel about it.
The reason I play that is because I can't, with my dulcet tones, I can't get across the emotion that someone like Amy Brenneman is expressing on her face.
What's a dulcet tone?
It's a way of saying my voice is pleasant to the ear, which I don't think it is.
Let me do that.
I think so. And it's this guy is saying these things, and in her mind, that's not the way she remembers it, but that's the way it went down, and it's a reminder to her, and it's a hammer reminder to the audience of exactly what happened to this person that we've been watching for an hour. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought it was great. This is also a chance for me to sing the praises of Amy Brenneman, who I don't know if you're too familiar with her, but she's kind of been a constant in my TV watching life for a very long time. I watched NYPD Blue from the beginning, and she was a constant in the first season of that. Then she was in the great Michael Mann movie Heat. And then for years, she was the star and producer on the show called Judging Amy, which was very popular, which my grandfather loved to watch, and I like to watch it. And you just can't say enough about her. What she conveys here, the fact that she signed on for the show in the first whole season as an actress, she doesn't have any lines, pretty much.
I was going to say, it's funny that this is the place where she really shines, and this episode is the place where she just watches and lets her face do the talking. So obviously she's had a lot of practice with that in season 1, and that's almost the Laurie that we know. And I was going to say, I find, I think she does a great job in this episode, but she almost does a better job so far, at least for me, in season 1, when she doesn't say anything at all, and it's just all through her face, and that's so impressive that it kind of makes it hard for her to follow up to that when she is speaking. Like, how do you follow that? How do you follow that performance? But here, in this moment, it's a chance for it to stretch those legs and get that kind of season 1 style acting going again, and you can really see a lot of what's going on in her head just from that. So yeah, no, I agree.
All right, so I'm gonna go over the last chunk of the episode, and then we can talk about it. Tommy picks Laurie up from jail and tries to explain that what Susan did was not her fault, and everyone's waiting for her to come and make some sense of the tragedy. Here, Laurie admits running over GR members. Tommy explains to her that while they can take people out of the GR, they need to replace it what they suddenly take away. So they give them something. Laurie tells her story about what happened after the departure. She explains about Patty and how she joined the guilty remnant. She says her daughter's name and thinks she will never speak to her again. Tommy takes over and spins them a wonderfully told tale about meeting Holy Wayne and becoming Christine and the baby's protector. And then he goes on, Wayne finally came and told them where to take the baby, and that he, Wayne, was going to die tomorrow, and if Tommy wanted, he could pass along his power to him. Tommy said yes, got a hug from Wayne, and over again felt reborn. He apologizes for not using the gift Wayne had given him for so long, and then offers everyone a hug. And that's how the episode ends.
And that's pretty wild.
It was wild and it was surprising. I really enjoyed Amy Brenneman's look at him while he starts talking. Like, she knew what he was going to say, but she was pretty nervous about how it was going to go down. But he lied, straight up lied. And he sold it really well.
I mean, he did. I almost believed him because, we don't see exactly what happens. Obviously, we see Tommy with the baby, and then we see Wayne in however long. I don't know how much longer it is after Tommy's gone, but there's definitely a window where that could have happened. And we saw Tommy was watching that Holy Wayne stuff before. So there's many ways you could see that. It's like he was watching that to learn how Wayne spoke to people and how he was able to persuade people. Or, if he really was telling the truth, he was watching this to see how, Wayne's technique or, how he used his power. So it could be either. But it does make more sense as, a viewing experience for it to be not the case. It would feel a little bit cheap if Tommy really did have that power, and it's like they've just kind of written that in after season 1 finished. Like, if that was the direction they were going to go, they had plenty of time to actually show us that happening. And it would have felt like when something happens, I'm trying to find a good analogy, but it's when you have source material, and then, so for example, like Star Wars, you have the film, and then you have stuff that comes afterwards, and that stuff.
Retconning.
Yeah.
We're retconning Holy Wayne's power into Tommy.
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like it just would have been a bit harder to believe because.
Yeah, and here, my thing with it is, we've seen in Guest that it's a placebo effect, right? It's the power of positive thinking. You want your pain to go away so bad that you listen to this man and he gives you the speech, and within that speech and within this hug, you're able to let out your emotions and you're able to let your mind open to believe the thing, so you can almost heal yourself. You're telling yourself a lie almost just to get some partial relief, some temporary relief, even though you don't know it's temporary yet. It can really go a long way just for now. But it really is just something they can give to people to get them out of the GR, or maybe get an apartment until they realize their sadness comes back again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's, yeah. But don't you think, though, that obviously you've seen it before, but for somebody who's watching it for the first time, maybe somebody who's not paying as close attention to the episodes and kind of thinking about them like this, it would be easy enough for them to watch it. I mean, it's been a year since season one. They might have forgotten a lot of what happened. They watch this episode and they say, "Oh, that's cool. That's a cool little plot development. That's cool," and they believe him. Like that's a danger, right?
I mean, it's there, but it's definitely the show is meant for people, and that's why I don't think it was such a big ratings getter. It is meant for this specific audience, I think, and written for the specific audience that watches the things closely. And were there questions about this particular thing when it first aired? Yeah, of course that happened. But even just if you're looking at the information from this episode and not episodes coming after it, what is he doing? He's anytime he's not in a GR compound, he's wasted, and he's not taking care of himself. At the end of this episode and for the whole thing, he doesn't look washed. You know what I mean? And he's watching these YouTube videos. So, it's a really weird, not YouTube. It's a really weird direction for the show to take, because there's definitely a question there. Is this real? Can Tommy do this thing? But we know for a fact that he never got a hug from Wayne.
Well, yeah, exactly, because that's such a big part of season one. Is Tommy, like, they set that up where Tommy said no, he didn't want that, and then for them to sort of, if they had gone with this and this wasn't Tommy Line, this was Tommy telling the truth, it would have felt like they've kind of gone behind our backs. They've broken an agreement they've made to us as like a viewer. They've kind of made this promise through Tommy's actions and the way they've set him up as a character, and it would have felt like they completely ignored that.
And that's where I get off. That's where I get off at shows. When shows do that to me, that's where I leave.
Well, that's why I'm glad to confirm, because I haven't seen it. For all I knew, maybe it was. That's why I'm glad that it's not, because that sort of, when you watch it and you think, okay, is this actually the way they're going to go? It's this doubt, this uncertainty. Like, I'm not sure I want the show to go this way. But then when it turns out that that's there on purpose and it's actually the opposite, it takes that and like flips it. So you're like, okay, that's a really well done show, because they purposely put that in there.
And just to reiterate again, I think everything you need to know about whether this is a lie or true is in the episode and in the episodes you've seen before it, to let you know that this is from the time Tommy takes over, from the time he's telling the story about Wayne finally came and showed us where to take care of the baby. Like, from then on, 100% fiction, made up for the people in the room so they can make sense of the fact. And I don't know how it makes sense of the fact that Susan drove her family on an off-ramp and killed them all. I don't know how one washes over the other. It's just the power of his message. And I think he channeled a bunch of emotion into it.
Yeah, but it is funny though that they're using like cult tactics to bring down a cult, fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, and it's ballsy too. So, well, that was Off Ramp, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed us talking. I enjoyed us talking. I am working on a way to get some reaction videos out of Benji for some future episodes, but we're not going to do it for the next one. We'll watch it separately and then come talk about it, hopefully soon. It's going to be episode 4, which is called Orange Sticker, which I believe we spoke about before. And it'll get us back into Miracle, Texas. Okay, man, that's it for me. If anyone else is listening, like, subscribe, hit the bell.